Welcome everyone back to House of Chi Yoga and welcome to your quickie stretch video. Today I'm going to use a block. If you have a block, great. If you don't have a block, maybe you can find a little pillow. I will be using it quite a bit to kind of help release some fascia and some muscle. So I hope you do have a block. If not, $5 at Ross. You can push pause, go pick one up. But let's get started anyway. Enough chit chat. So I'm going to go ahead and land in seated. And I'm going to lift my butt muscle up, or whatever you got there. You're going to lift it up and land right on top of the sitting bones. Now just start working through the feet. So a little point flex, add some circling. And imagine the fascia. So as I'm working through my feet, I'm stretching the fascia around the muscles. Now keep a flex in the foot. Engage your quad muscles so maybe the heels can come up off the mat. Fingertips are going to plant. Inhale nice and long through the spine. And then as you exhale, you're slowly going to roll vertebrae by vertebrae. And notice that my gaze is the last thing to lift and also the last thing to lower. Keep the energy in the feet. Keep the quads active. You're working all the way through the hamstrings, around the glutes, and into the low back. Let's take one more big inhale, big exhale. And then let the feet roll out to the sides. We're going to grab the right ankle, pull it in, left ankle, pull it in. Now, take a moment just to press through the feet, maybe squish in between the toes, press around the arches, crack the toes if you need to. And now I'm going to bind onto the base of the toes and just roll through the shoulders. So as I roll through the shoulders, my navel is staying to the spine, but I'm pulling myself forward with my lat muscles, and I'm using my elbows, if they can reach, to push the knees, push the legs down towards the mat. So I'm just going deeper and deeper with this butterfly position. Now we're going to hold at the bottom, trying to get rid of the rounding in the spine, lift the heart, and you feel a hinge right at the hip. So right here at the top of the hip line, you're leaning into it, you're using the elbows to push the knees down to the mat, and sometimes it helps to engage the glute muscles a little bit. It'll pull your knees closer to the mat space. From here, just a little lift and lower through the chin, just to release the neck muscles. Everything's nice and soft in the shoulders. And then hold at the bottom. Maybe go deeper into your round. Now, as I'm rounding my chin into my chest, I'm going to keep the knees working down, but I'm going to expand in the upper back. I'm going to create a bit of a C curve through the spine. Now I have a deeper stretch along the back body. Keep breathing. And then exhale, gently roll up vertebrae by vertebrae. Let's use our hands to bring our feet and knees to hips distance. And then we're going to take the block in between both palms and inhale as we lift up. Create some nice stretch through the front body. Exhale, let it come down. Inhale to lift. Exhale to lower. One more time. Inhale, bring it up. And then exhale, just let the block come down to the sides. So the feet are working down, heel to toe. I'm going to twist over to one side and just gently support by holding on to the calf and roll that back shoulder open. I'm pushing into the fingertips. As I'm rolling, I'm working the scapula away from the spine and then towards the spine. Now I'm going to hold the scap in and I'm going to gaze past the back shoulder. Keep breathing, maybe feeling a deeper stretch from the abdominals. And then we'll exhale, gaze forward. That back hand is going to cross midline. So now I'm holding opposite sides of my legs, and I like to hook directly underneath my knees. Now I can go back into my C curve again. Check in with the toes. Keep the toes down. You want to feel a stretch all the way maybe into the hip flexors here. And then we'll inhale, bring it up, and open opposite direction. So I'm going to go fingertips down, roll through the shoulders, get the scapula away from the spine, pull it towards the spine. As much movement as you can get through the shoulder and that scap region. And then we'll hold, pull the scaps in, push into the fingertips, go deeper into your abdominals, deeper into your twist. And then gently coming back through center. This time we're going cross, but we're extending the legs forward. So if you can go farther than the knee, go ahead and reach farther. Now what I don't want to happen is the toes to fold into midline because you're pulling. We want to resist that pull. So the toes are still active and up. And as I pull, I'm not letting the feet fold in. I'm keeping them in line with the hips. Oy, then you feel the backs of the legs, you feel the IT band. And then gently rolling it up. Now let's take the block and place it towards the right hip. So you'll have different heights of the block. I like to use this height here. It's kind of the middle ground. And I'm going to place it directly underneath my right hip. Now this bottom leg is supporting and this bottom arm is supporting. So now I can release as much weight down as I want to on the block. And you get it kind of in between the hip bone and the side of the hip. If you want even more weight, I like to just lay down so all the weight can squish into the block. And I use my back toes to roll. So now I'm getting a bit of a massage on the outer hip. And it feels so good. Gently releasing through the muscles. Keep breathing. Maybe you feel the inner leg line soften, the deep hip muscles soften. Let's take one more breath here. And then we'll exhale. If you are up on the palm, then go ahead and come down on the shoulder like I am. And we're going to gently roll to square towards the ceiling. Now this leg is supporting. My other leg comes in, and then I can safely remove the block and take the spine down. Adjust yourself if you need to. You want feet down, hips down, palms up over the head. Now reach the fingertips. Keep breathing and opening up through the ribs. As you exhale, you're going to bring the arms down to a 90, and then from that 90, your fingertips are just going to reach forward and then open back up to your 90. So try not to let the elbow come up. I have pretty tight shoulders, so my fingertips barely touch the ground. Hopefully you can get your whole forearm to the ground. I am not there yet. Let's go one more. And then releasing. Let's take the arms underneath the body, and all I'm doing is reaching my fingertips to the other side elbow. Now you can bring the weight down. If your scapula is super winged out, try to lift the chest, get the pressure on top of the scaps so that the body weight will push the scapula back towards the spine. Now you've created a big opener through the chest, relaxing through the neck. Feel the space across the collarbones. Take one more inhale here. And then as we exhale, we're going to push into the feet and gently roll up vertebrae by vertebrae. Just let the hands go to the sides and then roll down vertebrae by vertebrae. We'll go two more. Inhale as you lift. And exhale as you lower. One more. Holding at the top this time. You can bind the hands underneath. Now with this bind, see how my shoulders are kind of rotated forward. I want to use this bind to roll my shoulders back and away. Now I'm on top of my shoulder line, my chest is open, I can lift higher, and I have a lot more space across the front body. Take a few breaths here. Continue to work the shoulders away from the ears. And then we'll gently release the bind, gently release the spine all the way down, and we're going to transition to our opposite side. So you can just roll directly to your left hip with the block. Because I'm facing the camera, I'm just going to come up and switch sides. So now I'm on my left hip. The block goes right there. My bottom arm is supporting, my bottom leg is supporting. If you want more weight, you just release the weight completely onto the block. This block that I have is a pretty soft block. Sorry, I just hit the microphone. It's a pretty soft block, so it's really comfortable to roll around on. Depends on what you have at home. Hopefully you have a softer block. If you have a roller too, you could use a roller for this practice. Taking a few more breaths here, trying to get a little deeper into the hip. And then we're gonna square, but belly facing down this time. So we're gonna use our hands, roll onto our belly, let the block come out, and then bring the block to one side of the body. So from here, a little front of the shoulder release. We did a lot of opening in the chest. I'm gonna pivot forward. My arm is gonna stay in a 90, but I have to be really intentional about the space I'm creating from the shoulder all the way to the elbow. So if your arm is here and it's kind of crunched up, you need to be reaching out and away so that you're creating a stretch already. And then you just gently bring the weight down and soften into the arm. If you feel like the shoulder is creeping back up, re-engage it long and then pull away from it so you feel the stretch in the front of the deltoid. And just keep breathing and relaxing into the front of the shoulder. One more breath. Now our right hand, or whichever hand is being supported, you're going to grab onto the block and just take some big reaches across midline and down to the ankle, getting through the underarm, the straightest interior. Now that block is just going to go all the way to the other side, and you'll switch. Now find your 90. Remember, we're intentionally creating that space from the shoulder girdle all the way to the elbow. So find the length. Make sure you're feeling that stretch. I definitely feel it in my biceps this morning. Oh, and then you can breathe. I'm letting my head gently fall to the opposite direction. That feels really good too. It's adding just more stretch. And gently coming back through center. The hand grabs the block, reach through midline, all the way down to the ankle. Last one. And then we'll just leave the block wherever. I'm just going to place it at the top of my mat and come into child's pose. Toes together, knees wide. The wider the knees, the more space you're going to have to sink down to the mat. Push some weight back into the hips, back into the feet. And with each exhale here, try to sink it a little bit farther, especially if the chest, the forehead isn't working down to the mat already. Use those exhales to get closer. And then pushing into the tops of the feet, start rolling it through quadruped. Adding some cat-cow spine. So not just working through the spine here, but working into the hip flexors, working around through the shoulders. You can work through the neck, all with deep breathing. Let's go one more. And then we'll exhale, tuck it toward downward facing dog, and just walk it out in a downward facing dog. Gently walking the hands back to the feet. Take opposite elbow. Inhale to a flat back, long legs. Exhale, fold all the way. Let the arms be heavy. Let the crown of the head be heavy. You can release the head and yes and no. You can open the mouth and release the jaw. And then we'll go one more. Inhale, flat back. This time I'm going to scoop into my ankle. And exhale, pull myself with that ankle bind. Maybe wrap the elbows behind the legs. See if you can get the thigh closer to belly, the forehead closer to shin. Now bending the knees, take a bind behind the head and just gently use the weight of the hands to press the head farther into a round. Feeling some nice stretching across the back body. You can start bringing the hips down a little bit in toward a deep squat. Now, if this is too much for you, go ahead and stay in your fold, or maybe release the hand bind and then move into a squat. But right here, I'm going to add that hand press again and try to go all the way through the back body. And then gently releasing, walking it forward towards a plank. And let's step the right foot outside the right palm. Now push into your back toes and bring the hips down. So I want to keep the extension in the back leg. So I'm creating some tension, some nice stretch across the hip flexors. Take one more breath. As you exhale, let's press it to a very wide pyramid stance. All I did was straighten my legs. And this front leg hip, I'm going to draw it back and away. Maybe get the forehead closer to the shin. You can take the hands wider for more stability. And then I'm going to exhale, bend into the front leg. The back knee scoops behind for a twist. So my right knee is the one on top. I'm going to take my left arm and wrap it. I'm going to pull this hip down. Ooh, I got some tight glutes this morning. And now with the hips down, you're working long spine. You're pulling the leg into the chest. And then you can bring the forehead down. Exhale as you gently release. This front foot, we're going to stay planted. Use the hands to step the left foot back, followed by the right. Walk it out from downward facing. And then we'll bring the left foot outside left palm. Keep the back leg long. Press from the toes. Open up from the hip flexors. So if our leg is soft, we kind of lose it. Keep the back leg nice and long. Feel the stretch across the hips. Maybe bring the gaze up and find some deep breathing. On your next exhale, just extend the legs. You can stay in your wide stance. You can take the hands a little wider to frame. Pull the left hip back, create more space along the hamstrings. And then exhale, shift forward into the front leg. That back knee is going to scoop behind. Now my left knee is on top. My right arm is going to wrap. I'm going to pull the left hip down, if I can. A little tight this morning. Try to work the left hip down. Try to bring the leg in closer. Oh my gosh, my hip is so tight. And then round into that C curve, or excuse me, not a C curve. You're just bringing the forehead down. So we actually want to stay away from the C curve and keep the spine nice and long. My tight glute muscles are sidetracking me. And then exhale as you gently release. So you can use your hands to open the legs back up. Cross the ankles. We're going all the way onto the belly with the block. So the block is going to sit in between the hip bones and above the pubic bone under the ribs. So it's about the space of all that soft tissue in the belly, all the organs. And you can use your feet and your arms for as much support as you need to make sure you're not just dropping all the weight on the block right away. If you're familiar with this move, if this is really comfortable for you, like for me, this feels great because I do it all the time. You can kind of move around, you can release more body weight down, but you want to feel the block giving you some pressure up into the abdominals. It's giving you pressure against the muscles, and then as you breathe, you're creating a deeper stretch along those belly muscles. We'll just take a few breaths here and play around with the movement a little bit. As you roll right to left, you can feel a deeper stretch inside the hip bones. The block can put a little pressure up there. And then on your next exhale, we'll just gently roll to one side. You're coming off the block, and we're going to land on our back. So I'm going to switch positions just for the mirror, or for the camera, not the mirror. You can just flip over onto your back. Now the block is going at the sacrum. You just lift the hips up, and you place it right at the sacrum. Now, if you feel like the block is adding pressure towards the spine, adjust it, maybe move it down a little farther. You want to feel the block pulling away from the spine, so creating more space and more length. You're just holding here and breathing. You can bring the hands to the belly. And going a little bit farther with our hip flexors, we're going to pull the right knee in very carefully. I'm just going to bind with one hand. The other hand, I'm going to help extend my hip flexors. So my leg is going long, and I'm actually going to switch sides so that you can see. One hand is holding the knee, one hand is pressing at the hip. So I'm pushing and pulling very gently, and just breathe into whatever's happening there in your hips. I like to use my thumbs sometimes to add a little bit more pressure. And then gently bring the legs in together, and you can switch sides. And then bringing both legs in. Let's place the feet back down, remove the block, very slowly, vertebrae by vertebrae, all the way down. Now you can take the block, and you're going to use one of the edge sides to place right at the occiput, right at the hairline. I like to hold my block because it's kind of at an angle, so it could fall. So I hold it, and then I roll right across the hairline, get a little massage through the scalp. And then you can allow the block to just go flat, support the head, and bring the hands down to the side. Bringing the feet together, the knees can unfold. Let's take the hands at the hips. Inhale. Exhale, gently lock out the arms. It's firm pressure, but it's nice and slow. Only a few cracks and pops for me today. And then gently release the pressure. Let's roll it over to one side. If you would like to stop the video and stay in Shavasana, feel free to. If you'd like to follow me up to seated, follow me here. Land it seated. We'll inhale our palms up and overhead. Exhale your hands down to heart center. Just giving yourself a moment of thanks, a moment of gratitude, a moment of appreciation for our bodies. Sometimes it's good to slow down. Thank you for joining me today at the House of Chi Yoga. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.